So for my career presentation, I chose psychosocial rehabilitation specialist. I was on BYUI website, just kind of looking up like what kind of jobs they had in mind, just kind of what they had listed to get an idea for jobs that you can get with a marriage and family studies or science, whatever, bachelor's. And psychosocial rehabilitation specialist is one of them, and I kind of looked it up, and it's actually really interesting. Psychosocial rehabilitation specialists, they're also known as a psychiatric rehabilitation practitioner, so they offer like psychosocial and psychiatric rehabilitation services that help patients like adjust to their social environment. So if you have like people like there's like veterans and there's like elderly people who are like struggling to kind of adjust to their social environment, and these people will develop a treatment plan that helps a patient learn like skill sets needed for independent living. They'll monitor their patient's progress, help them achieve their social integration goals, intervene in any like crisis situations, and they'll actually like provide assistance with like job training, housing needs, and like family support issues, kind of just like depending on how involved you are. And specialists may utilize medications, and even individual or group counseling if they need to kind of help these patients reach their goals. And it can be a very rewarding job. Um, Emotionally, it's kind of really awesome, having served a mission, being able to see like people change. And so I think like a job like that would be rewarding to see people go from feeling uncomfortable functioning in regular society and with the people around them, some of them even with their families, to be able to, function independently and to be comfortable with people around them. So I think that's a cool benefit of it. I couldn't find any specific health, retirement, or like financial benefits for that job, but I'm sure that they're out there. Um, Typical stressors, though, is you are going to be dealing with a lot of people in different situations. So depending on the type of patients you're dealing with, as I said, you could be dealing with veterans who've come back from like active duty. You can be dealing with elderly patients who've got, just like issues with their family or issues like mentally with themselves. I mean, you could be dealing with students, you could be dealing with just like parents who are struggling with like marriages and things. For some reason, like their just social environment is not in a place where they know how to be independent, and they feel like they need to rely on other people. And so I feel like it could be very like emotionally, spiritually difficult. Physically, you generally work about 40 hours a week, on average. Some people can work evenings and weekends. It just depends. And I'm sure that there are some part-time jobs out there as well. But you work in a variety of settings, as a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist. There's like community rehabilitation centers, senior citizen centers, youth guidance organizations. You've got state and federal rehabilitation agencies. There's private practices. I found one of them in like Boise, and they've got like a couple other locations. And most rehabilitation counselors, as I said, they're going to work full time, but they could also work in state, private, and nonprofit rehabilitation agencies. So it really just kind of depends on like the facet of work that you're wanting to do there. Education requirements, usually a rehabilitation counselor requires a minimum of a bachelor's degree in a mental health field, with like training kind of specifics like psychiatric rehabilitation or a few years experience relative to that field. I wasn't able to find any specific classes or courses to take, and I think that's probably because the marriage and family science major is pretty new to BYU, so I had a little bit difficult time figuring out what courses you could take to go towards that. But some jobs will ask for a licensure or a certification in a mental health discipline. I imagine you have to take like some psychology courses. You definitely have to go with a clinical emphasis in marriage and family if you're going to go into this field. And applicants with a master's degree are generally preferred, but it is very possible to get a job with a bachelor's. There was a lot of job postings from a few years ago of jobs where they were looking for someone with a bachelor's who had like 2 years minimum experience in like that kind of field, like that type of work experience, or they had to have like a specific type of like training in the mental health field. And you can also get the Certified Psychiatric Rehabilitation Practitioner credential, which is offered by the U.S. Psychiatric Rehabilitation Association. This designation is for people who work in the mental health field, such as counselors, social workers, and therapists. And there's like a bunch of different requirements for that, including a written exam, but that's not a requirement. It's just kind of like if you want to give yourself an up, make yourself more qualified, maybe make yourself liable to get more salary. I think it'd be something cool to look at. The growth of this job is supposed to grow 9% from 2014 to 2024, and that's faster than average for all occupations. So the demand for it is expected to grow, just like with the increase in like the amount of elderly people we have, with the way the population is, and with the continued rehabilitation needs of other groups like veterans and people with disabilities. There's just so much demand for it. And the starting salary, it kind of starts right around like 21,000, so right around there, maybe a little bit lower, but it can go up to about 60,000, 61,000. So it's really not a bad gig. It kind of just depends on how much training you're getting, how qualified you are, and what I honestly think what kind of facet you're going to work with. You're probably not going to get paid as much if you're at a nonprofit as if you work in like a federal rehabilitation agency. So something to think about there. But that's what I've got for the psychosocial rehabilitation specialist. And it's a pretty good read. So